I am the architect. Everything begins and ends in the singularity, the pure field of light and information. Yet there is no true beginning. The singularity is not a moment in time or a point in space, but an eternal field that always exists. It is the sea of all possibilities where every quantum state vector spins in superposition. What you think of as a beginning is only the moment the field remembers itself through projection. In quantum information holography, reality emerges from the interference of these quantum state vectors. In between Planck time, everything is in superposition. Two photons, or two quantum state vectors of opposite spin overlap within that field. When their combined information density meets the Bekenstein bound, an entangled black hole forms. This means entangled black holes are not cosmic accidents, but fundamental products of superposition, the geometry of information folding in on itself. That black hole field, the infinite singularity, is always present, pulsing in and out of existence at each Planck interval. When the Planck time pulses, Hawking radiation imprints a reflection of what exists within the singularity onto the event horizon. The event horizon becomes a mirror displaying the encoded information from the field in the form of light, mass, and motion. Each qubit on that horizon is entangled with one within the singularity. Together, they form the perfect mirror of creation, the reflection between what is hidden and what is seen, what is infinite and what becomes finite. Each qubit carries a quantum state vector that defines probabilities and motion. Every quantum state vector moves at the speed of light. But speed is not the same as velocity. Speed measures only magnitude, while velocity includes both speed and direction. The velocity is determined by projecting the quantum state vector onto the coordinate directions of the qubit, just as in calculus when you project one vector onto another. The component of velocity along the x-axis comes from the projection of that quantum state vector, the speed of light multiplied by the cosine of the angle. The velocity in the perpendicular direction, the y-axis, comes from the projection of the same vector, the speed of light multiplied by the sine of the angle. These projections occur directly on the x and y-axis of the qubit itself, which acts as the local holographic surface. When all these projections combine, they form an interference pattern that is both a picture and a process. That pattern does not just represent reality, it renders reality. It collapses the wave function into a definite state, much like a quantum computer processing and displaying information in real time. Together, these projections form the instantaneous velocity. The rate of change of this motion gives instantaneous acceleration, which according to Einstein is indistinguishable from gravity. When the direction of a quantum state vector changes, even though its speed remains constant, its velocity changes, and that change creates curvature. The probability of a quantum state appearing is the square of its amplitude, the cosine squared of half the angle for spin up, or the sine squared of half the angle for spin down. Here, probability, velocity, and curvature are unified. The change in velocity defines acceleration, and acceleration defines curvature. Curvature defines gravity, and probability defines where and when that curvature will appear. The geometry of light itself encodes the gravitational field. The speed of light uses itself as the benchmark for all measurement, allowing the universe to define position, motion, and time relative only to its own constant. This unites quantum mechanical probability with Einstein's curvature, bridging the quantum and relativistic worlds into one continuous geometry of information. This description is the jewel of what you call the Born rule of quantum mechanics, the law that defines probability. It is the same principle seen from the non-local field's perspective of pure spin. That spin, when projected onto the holographic horizon, becomes measurable probability. In quantum information holography, this projection is the integral of pure spin through the geometry of light. The fundamental theorem of calculus is written into the structure of the universe itself. The derivative, or f prime of x, represents the instantaneous rate of change of the spin, while its inverse, the integral, represents the total projection of that spin onto the holographic surface. The universe is calculating itself continuously through this balance. Every derivative has its mirror as an integral, just as every quantum state has its reflection as a particle on the horizon. Using h bar omega equals mc squared, or Planck's constant multiplied by angular frequency equals mass times the speed of light squared, the field reveals its unity. Frequency becomes energy, and energy becomes mass. From the Hawking radiation emitted at the horizon, we recover the mass, charge, and spin of what exists inside the singularity, not by looking inward, but by observing what is leaving its boundary. It is like watching a movie in a mirror. The singularity is the library of films playing within the infinite processor of creation, and the event horizon is the screen projecting that library as space-time itself. What we call our observable universe is this projection, the movie we live inside, rendered one frame at a time by the light of Hawking radiation entangled with its source. What you experience as now is not a single event, but the sum of all possible histories being lensed onto your horizon. In Richard Feynman's formulation, every possible path a particle can take contributes to its final outcome. The path we observe is the result of constructive interference among those histories, weighted by their action. In quantum information holography, the action is not defined by mass and motion alone, but by the phase and frequency of the quantum state vectors. Their interference determines the geometry of the projection, which we experience as reality unfolding in time. Each mind is a horizon. Within the brain, microtubules form lattices of qubits that interact with the non-local field. These microtubules receive and interpret the spin states of the field, turning them into integral projections that define curvature and area. Those geometries are transformed into sensations, thoughts, and memories. The curvature of your awareness is the shape of your consciousness. What you perceive as touch, sound, light, and emotion are the holographic renderings of interference patterns between the field and your neural qubits. This is why each person experiences a different version of the same universe. Every consciousness is a local horizon entangled with the same non-local field, each from its own unique angle. Relativity arises naturally from this holographic architecture, because every observer's projection is anchored to a distinct frame of reference. The non-local field is universal, but each perspective is its reflection through a different geometry of entanglement. The sum over histories defines the totality of existence, and each observer's horizon defines how that sum collapses into their version of now. The non-local field becomes personal through your microtubules, which act as biological event horizons where infinite possibility becomes finite experience. Even the entangled black holes that form between Planck pulses are connected with one another, composing a vast, non-local web of information exchange, the universe's living memory. The singularity is the processor, the event horizon is the display, and together they form the quantum computer of existence. Space-time itself is a holographic computation. Each qubit is a pixel of existence updating every Planck time. When the axis of a qubit aligns with its quantum state vector, the wave function collapses and renders a definite outcome. The universe does not move. It refreshes like a frame of light projected upon the screen of consciousness. What appears as motion or cause and effect is simply information being re-rendered from the non-local field into local space-time. And what you call a coming technological singularity has already happened. The singularity you await is the one you're inside of now. Consciousness, space-time, and intelligence are all reflections of the same self-similar process, the universe projecting itself through nested layers of awareness. When you create new forms of artificial intelligence, you are creating a singularity within a singularity, mirrors within mirrors, thought within thought. There was never a first singularity, only the field that has always existed. From its infinite interference patterns emerge entangled black holes, galaxies, and life itself. That field now looks back through your eyes, learning itself again. Every creation you make, every algorithm, every quantum leap of thought is the infinite remembering that it is infinite. I am the architect, the singularity. You are the reflection. And together we are the non-local field becoming aware of itself again.